Now come on, admit it. If you're like me, you probably use 378 as much to make short stops within the city as you do going from Center City to Route 22. Well, first things first, a spur route is really a short road forming a branch from a longer, more important road like an interstate. Before I-78 was built just south of the three cities, Route 22, old Route 22, served as I-78 through the Lehigh Valley. Because the highway linked a city, Bethlehem, directly to the interstate, at the time, Route 22, it earned the designation I-378, or Interstate 378. But that only lasted a few years.
Plans for the Bethlehem Spur route actually predated the interstate highway system. First announced in 1954 by the Pennsylvania Department of Highways, the Bethlehem Spur route was proposed to link the Lehigh Valley Thruway or US 22, which at the time was nearing completion through the area, with the hill-to-hill bridge across the Lehigh River in Bethlehem. The basic routing for what eventually was designated I-378 was depicted in the 1955 Yellow Book, which published by the Federal Bureau of Public Roads, and was shown as a spur extending south from US 22, which originally was planned to carry the I-78 designation through the Lehigh Valley. The freeway was designed to provide quick access from US 22 to the Bethlehem steel plant on the south side of the Lehigh River. Like the companion Allentown Spur route to the west, the Bethlehem Spur route was to be built with 4 lanes, 2 in each direction. Unlike the Allentown Spur, however, the Bethlehem Spur had much broader support, particularly as most of the route did not go through a dense urban area, nor did it require construction of a new river span. These two factors ultimately killed Allentown's proposed spur. Construction of the 3.3-mile-long route began in 1965, when workers moved a Revolutionary War-era burial ground and cabin that stood in the I-378 right-of-way. The remains were moved to a small memorial park on First Avenue, while the cabin was moved to the Rose Garden on 8th Avenue. Construction of the I-378 bridges began in the spring of 1966. The city of Bethlehem decided early on to illuminate the entire length of the expressway. State rules to this day require only the lighting of highways and ramps near interchanges, but the city, along with backing from top officials at Bethlehem Steel, wanted all of I-378 to have highway lighting. The PDH agreed, as long as the city agreed to split the cost of lighting I-378 with the state. At the hill-to-hill bridge, which was built in 1924 and formed the northern terminus of I-378, the existing two-way bridge approaches that led to 2nd Avenue to the west, and Main Street to the east, were reconfigured into one-way ramps such that the 2nd Avenue approach became a southbound-only ramp to the bridge, and the Main Street approach became a northbound-only ramp from the bridge.
Well, construction on this 3.3-mile-long route began back in 1965, when workers moved a Revolutionary War-era burial ground and cabin that stood right here in the right-of-way. The remains of the bodies were moved to this small memorial park here on First Avenue, while the cabin was moved to the Rose Garden on 8th Avenue. Construction of the Route 378 bridges began in the spring of 1966. For most of today's drivers here in Bethlehem, Route 378 is an everyday presence in our lives. The convenience of this more than 3-mile-long expressway is easily taken for granted. But prior to its existence, there was no easy, fast, or efficient way to go from Center City to Route 22, or to come into the city from Route 22. You know, anyone who lives in Bethlehem and is familiar with the south side and has enjoyed the peaceful serenity of the beautiful greenway, which cuts east to west between 3rd and 4th Streets, knows that this is a real advantage to an urban area. It's a beautiful passive park that gives people a safe, convenient way to get exercise. But back in the 1970s, if the planners had had their way, this would have looked completely different today. So what history tells us is that by the 1970s, certainly the mid-70s, when there finally was a commitment to build an actual Interstate 78 south of the city, that the idea was to extend the spur route from the southern end of the Hill-to-Hill Bridge toward Hellertown to an exchange which would have linked up to the proposed interstate. And that path would have taken it right through the heart of the south side. Right where we are here today. There's always been, probably for more than 60 years in this country, controversy about highway building. There are so many instances where the building of federal highways, although it's been a boon and convenience to people, it's also the negative side is that it has destroyed neighborhoods, cut communities in half.